You're a designer who struggles with communication, can't place your point forward, has difficulty in a group discussion. This video is definitely for you to become better at fluent English and think in English. Here are basics of communication. So there are varied aspects of communication, and today I'm going to discuss this with you. We are going to start with the extreme basics. What is communication? So communication is basically transfer of information from point A to point B, from person A to person B, and it is a way of reaching out to others, giving your pointers, giving your ideas, giving your opinions, talking about your emotions, talking to one or more people. Communicating design is extremely important because the way you talk to your clients, the way you talk to contractors, the way you talk to vendors, material vendors and brand collabs, and the way you talk to these people matters a lot. I also deal with a lot of students because I know I'm a professor myself, and I deal with a batch of 60, 70 people as well. So public communication skills also is very, very important here. This is a very simple presentation which I have, tried to make and explain that what is the importance of communication and what exactly are communication skills. So people keep talking about, you should be good at this, you should be, good at talking, but nobody talks about the basic ground level, that why these things are extremely important in the industry. Say for example, there's a message that has to be transferred, okay, and there is a person who's a sender. So basically if I'm communicating, I'm the sender, and the person who's receiving at the receiving end of the message is a receiver. Now, very, very important, the way in which I send the information from the sender to the receiver is what is communication. Now this is the medium. The green arrow indicates the medium. It could be anything. It could be email, it could be a direct communication, phone, telephonic communication, a letter, it could be a note, any denotation of how I send a message. In case of interior designers and architects, it's our representation skills which are very important forms of communication. Basically giving a message to a sender, to a receiver via a medium is called as aspect of communication. Next, we have varied kinds of communication. The first one being an intrapersonal communication. Sometimes people think in their mother tongues. अगर आप गुजराती हो तो आप गुजराती में सोचते हो, फिर आप इंग्लिश में इसको ट्रांसलेट करने की कोशिश करते हो. अगर आप हिंदी हो तो आप हिंदी, और या मराठी हो तो आप मराठी में सोचते हो, फिर उसको ट्रांसलेट करते हो. इस चक्कर में क्या होता है कि आपका फ्लुएंट इंग्लिश नहीं बैठ पाता है. वाई? बिकॉज आप अपने माइंड में पहले उसको ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हो, आप सोच अपनी मदर टंग में रहे हो, बट बोल आप इंग्लिश में रहे हो. इसका सबसे बेस्ट सोल्यूशन क्या है? आप खुद से बातें करो. आई नो इट साउंड्स वेरी फनी, बट ट्रस्ट मी, इट वर्क्स द बेस्ट. आप खुद से बातें करते हो इंग्लिश में, तो आप धीरे धीरे सोचने भी इंग्लिश में लगते हो. दैट इज वन थिंग विच आई हैव नोटिस्ड in many people are practicing this as one of the best aspects of communication, that you think in English and you talk in English. तो एटलीस्ट स्पोकन इंग्लिश में आप इसका भरोसा, इसका मदद ले सकते हो. Now, next is a different form of communication, that is the intrapersonal communication. That is two people talking face to face directly to each other is intrapersonal. Next is group communication. जैसे कोई ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग सेशन चल रहा है या कोई प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे हैं या आप ऑफिस में हो, सब साथ में बैठ के कॉन्फ्रेंस रूम में मीटिंग वगैरह कर रहे हैं, वो हो गया ग्रुप कम्युनिकेशन. इसमें ज्यादातर लोगों को प्रॉब्लम इतना नहीं होता बिकॉज इट्स ग्रुप and very comfortable in a smaller group. At least the introvert people are very, very comfortable in a group communication. Next is a public communication. This is somewhere, the main problem lies, wherein you have to talk in front of a lot of individuals. I myself do public communication literally every day. Certain attributes that a public communication carries is you have to be loud enough, you have to be tonal enough. हर एक वॉइस का एक टोन वैल्यू होता है, तो वो आपका टोन सही जाना चाहिए. And the way you're talking, the way you're communicating, the way you're putting your point forward has to be clear, loud and crisp. Less number of words makes more impact. Still today, even I'm not very good at it, and I'll keep training myself every day to be a better person in public communication. So there is no rule that this person is perfect and or this person speaks perfectly. You can see a lot of TED talks as well on public communication. बहुत सारे अच्छे TED talks है जो आप देख सकते हो. I still myself see them every day. Non-verbal communication is quite simple. That is your eye contact, your body language, the way your facial expressions are, the way you enter a room, your gestures, your hands. All these things communicate verbally. जब आप ऐसे slouch करके एक public में बैठे हो, तो definitely that slouching will indicate that you're not open. You're not open to conversation. जब आप proper खड़े रहते हो, uptight रहते हो, तो इसका मतलब लोगों को आपसे बात करने का मन करता है. That is the power of non-verbal communication. Lot of Instagram coaches and lot of people on the internet लोग courses भी करते हैं, body language experts. Please see these content. समझो कि what is the importance of a body language when it comes to non-verbal communication. Next is a mass communication. जैसे अभी आप content create कर रहे हो, books है, internet, blogs, cinema, television, radios and newspapers. All these things are mass communication wherein you are just communicating through words. Next, we have different forms of communication. We have already discussed verbal and non-verbal. Non-verbal basically, something that is very intangible, जैसे कि your facial expressions, the way your eyes are rolling, the way your appearance is, what is the tone of your voice, are you pissed, are you angry, happy, are you sad? All these things are very apt when it comes to the receiver's end. Next, the way you dress, your posture, your distance between two people. We have next verbal communication, that is generally oral or written. जैसे आप वर्ड्स लिख रहे हो तो वो रिटन कम्युनिकेशन हो गया, आप मुंह से बोल रहे हो या टेलीफोन पे बात कर रहे हो तो वो ओरल हो गया. There are so many people who tell me that ma'am, you look very tired today, or ma'am, you look very happy today. So see the power of these non-verbal communication skills, that the moment you enter a room, people notice these things, and they are very unspoken things which people notice. Interpersonal, that is we've already discussed, is a communication between two individuals. Say for example, a client and a designer is talking to each other. So in this, listening becomes very important, teamwork becomes very important. दोनों जन मिलके they come up to a certain design concept. I feel as designers, empathy is something we have to deal with it almost every day, because we literally have to get into the client's mind and understand, step in their shoes. For example, we are doing a residential project. We literally need to step in the client's shoes and understand what he wants. And sometimes even the client doesn't know what he wants. You as a designer have to be very well enough and pro-efficient and understand the sensitivities and what the client needs, how the client dresses up, what the client likes, dislikes, food, habits, daily routine, उनका activities आपको map करना है, and you have to judge whether the client needs and the requirements are satisfied. This is where the catch lies, wherein as an interior designer you have to have almost all of these qualities to become a leader, because you're not working alone, you're always working in a team. Motivation, you have to keep motivating your team in case you are a head designer or a senior designer. Flexibility amongst your team members, dependability on each other. Not one person is going to do the entire design on its own. Dealing with people every day, different kinds of people, just like contractors, material vendors, and all these people, you have to have very good communication skills with our interpersonal. Again, I have divided a few things in non-verbal and verbal. Again, verbal mein there is oral and written. So as you can see, there is oral and written. And oral mein there is speaking and listening. Written mein there is writing and reading. Non-verbal mein most of these things lie, that is your facial expressions, your gestures, your body language, your proximity. That is how far are you standing from the person you are talking to, also indicates a lot. Say for example, if I'm talking to a friend, I'll obviously be talking to her from nearer. So the way I'm talking to her will indicate my closeness to her, my proximity to her. And if I'm talking to a stranger, I'll probably have a distance of a few feet. So that will indicate whether what my relationship with that person. Then there is of course touch, personal appearance, and silence as well. Essential skills which are much required for any kind of career, especially when it comes to design. Listening, as I've already said, you have to listen to your client to understand his brief. If you're the one who's only talking in a meeting, it's going to go down the drain. You have to understand, listen to what that client is trying to tell you, or what the vendor is trying to tell you, or what the contractor is trying to tell you, to understand his or her needs. Then friendliness, here you can say friendliness is, with your colleagues, because it's teamwork ultimately. You have to be able to be having a friendly discussion with your colleague at all times. Next, keep an open mind, because you live in a certain way, a certain lifestyle does not necessarily mean your client lives in a certain way. So have that open mind to design, to talking, to communication, which will give you better results. Now there is feedback. Of course, if there are two or more people involved in a design process, if you have a colleague who's with you, if you have your mentor with you, always take feedback and give feedback as well. Taking feedback, taking constructive criticism will not make you lower. Confidence, I think a lot of people, it's much needed in the hour. So I've seen a lot of videos in which I say that, is talent better or is confidence better? 9 out of 10 times people have selected confidence. If you have the confidence, even a non-talented person, will rise up and be a pro at whatever he or she is up to, or whatever he or she is doing in their career. And of course, non-verbal communication skills, as I've already mentioned, the way you dress, the way you look, your appearance, the way you enter a room, gestures, very important. Also, what are the advantages? That is, it gives credibility. So nowadays, a lot of brands which are sold, the owner itself wants to come up and talk about his or her own brand. This is the reason reliability and credibility is formed of that particular designer. Why do we associate certain advertisement with certain celebrities? Why are they brand ambassadors? Because if you attach a face to a brand, if you it sort of gives relatability and credibility. So when you are the person who's talking about your design, you are on social media, you have your online presence, नॉन वर्बली ही सही, बट आप बहुत सारी चीजें पुट फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हो. Limitations, a little lack of secrecy, there is no proof, a little misunderstanding, can be done. Basically, if someone looks in a certain way, people tend to judge. So these are some of the limitations that could be, or could be not for non-verbal communication. Next, we have certain advantages of orally communicating. See, for example, you have an option with your client of oral and written communication. Guess what would you choose? Asking me, I would always go for oral communication and written communication as well. First, I would always go for an oral communication, because that is the way you can gain faster feedback. You can also have more flexibility if there are any changes. You can also have a personal touch to your pitches. You can also have sort of quicker exchange of ideas, because it's very easier to explain your design when you have a certain design already represented. So in this case, your written and oral become most important. In any presentation, there has to be oral and written as well. Now, what are the limitations of oral communication? Say, for example, some people tend to overdo it. Some people just talk and they don't have anything to show. That's also not going to be right for them. Lack of written proof, written evidence. In this case, our drawings. If you don't have any drawing and you just keep talking about your design, it's not going to help you. Similarly, when we jump to written communication, in this case, our drawings, diagrams, flowcharts, it is very easy to get a clear message put forward. It is very easy when things are written down. Whatever you discussed in your oral meeting, in your oral discussions, when it's written down meticulously in point form, evidence that this is something that you discussed in a meeting and you are making it final. So this will help you along the run, when nobody will come and question you that अरे ये तो आपने बोला ही नहीं था, फिर आपने वो ऐड नहीं किया. So there is certain arguments that can happen when only oral communication is done. But when things are written down, jotted down, it becomes proof of evidence. So always have good writing skills. Always put forward your points similarly in bullet points, and whatever things that you've discussed on site or supervise the site, always have all these things in written. So maintain a daily logbook, daily idea, keep updating your teammates as well. So anything which is written, at least in our field, which will help you definitely in the long run. Some limitations of writing communication is that some people are not able to write. Say, for example, our unskilled laborers, sometimes they are illiterate, they are not able to write. So make sure you talk to them and put forward their point for them on their behalf. ऑल्सो समटाइम्स डिलेड फीडबैक हो जाता है क्योंकि आपने लिखा है बट उसका रिवर्ट नहीं आया है, तो ये भी एक हो सकता है कि आपको फीडबैक लेट आ रहा है या आपको थोड़ा टाइम वेस्ट हो गया इन द लॉन्ग रन बिकॉज यू आर राइटिंग एंड बिजी इन राइटिंग. So there should be a perfect balance to both oral and written as an interior designer or an architect. So next we have communication, wherein who is a poor communicator and who is a good communicator. So a poor communicator listens to reply. A good communicator listens to understand. That's the difference between a good and a bad communicator. Poor communicator will always assume that this is going to be the answer, and I know what this is, and it always leads to an argument. Wherein a good communicator will understand the intentions, have empathy, and understand what the other person is trying to say. Next, a poor communicator will always procrastinate when not sure, whereas a good communicator will always seek feedback. Poor communicator will always use data to make its points, whereas a good communicator always will use data, stories to make their points. जैसे कि I have made a presentation for you. Makes snap judgments, delays judgment, assumes knowledge level, confirms knowledge level, holds a grudge after a conflict. Now, this is something we see in varied kind of offices when you're working as interns as well. Never hold grudges, and you must have seen this in office culture and office politics as well. That a good person or a good communicator will always let go a conflict rather than holding a grudge or holding a grudge to your client and other colleagues as well, because ultimately you guys have to work together. You have to find a way. Uses vague language, uses specific sensory words, of course. Next, interrupts others while speaking. You should never interrupt a person when he or she is talking, or in case if you do interrupt, you can always apologize for the same or wait for the opposite person to stop speaking. Discounts other perspectives, goes to other perspectives, and doesn't talk about everything properly, gives half information. Whereas a good communicator will completely give all perspectives, think from all angles, and give all the information, written or oral. Subscribe to my channel and never miss another update from us. Let me know how the video was in the comment section. Follow for more.